Good evening, everybody. My name is Tim Fullerton, and I am the CEO of Find Out Media and a co-host of the Find Out podcast. And you are joining us for the Stand with Minnesota Live event tonight. I don't need to tell you how important this is to have all of us come together and stand with our brothers and sisters in Minnesota, especially after all of the things that they have endured over the last few weeks with the ICE occupation of the city of Minneapolis and the surrounding areas. I have been told to talk for a little bit before we get to our speakers, of which there are a lot of people. You may not know me, but you will know a lot of our speakers tonight. We have people like Adam Mockler. We have people like Aaron Rupar, who's actually from Minnesota. We've got Jolly Good Ginger, excuse me. We have Senator Cory Booker is going to come on and talk to us for a few minutes. We might have Maxwell Frost. He's got a little bit of a plane delay, so that might slow us down a little bit. But we also have Congressman Ted Lieu with us tonight, and a whole host of creators and a whole host of people that are working on the ground, helping communities, immigrant communities in particular, stand up against this grave injustice that the Trump administration has thrown Minnesota into pure chaos. I think, as we know now, countless people have been rounded up and disappeared with no due process, including a 5-year-old boy, Liam, who luckily the other day was released from a detention center in Texas along with his father, thanks to some work that Democrats have done in other progressive groups to raise awareness and get him out. There is no reason for the U.S. federal government to come to a 5-year-old child with masks and whisk them away, put them on a bus, and ship them 18 hours to a facility in Texas, which is what happened to this young boy, Liam, and thankfully he's back home. And a lot of that is due to everybody watching tonight and everybody telling us or telling the world about what is going on in Minnesota and all the ways that this is not what our democracy is supposed to be about. So tonight you're going to hear from a whole host of people, but the main reason that we are here is to raise money for groups on the ground that are helping the communities that are affected most by this absurd and illegal ICE raid on Minnesota. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the organizations. I believe in the bottom right-hand corner, there may be a QR code that you can use your phone and get the website to donate money to them. But the most important thing now is funding these groups. And I think another thing that's really important is that a lot of groups that are doing this work on the ground are losing their funding from the federal government due to the, and excuse my language, but the big bullshit bill that was passed that cut tons of services for poor working class, middle class families in order for them to put food on the table, to keep their costs down and things like that. So it's going to be very, very important, even if you can only afford $5, $10, $25. All of that makes a difference, and all of it will go to these groups. And I'm going to list them, and I apologize that I have to read them because I cannot memorize all of them, but I want to tell you about some of these groups in particular. So one of them, and I have to go glasses mode here, one of them is called Mi Casa, which is a community-led organization rooted in the Hispanic community. Together with local partners, they connect families to essential resources from basic needs and referrals to cultural navigation support and community education. That includes food assistance, diapers, formula, and other resources for infants and children, and volunteers to help immigrants navigate everyday life. And one of the things that is most important in Minnesota and other states like my home state of Maine right now is many immigrant families and communities do not feel safe going outside. So it is very, very difficult for them to get the things that they need to just live their daily life. So Mi Casa is one of those really great groups that we need to get our checkbooks out and our credit cards out and make donations to them right now. Another one is called the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota. They enhance opportunities for immigrants and refugees through free immigration legal representation for low-income individuals and through education and advocacy with diverse communities. And this includes free legal services, legal education, and advocacy. One of the most important things right now is letting people know what rights they have as immigrants. It doesn't matter if they're undocumented. It doesn't matter if they are, their status is pending. Everybody deserves representation from the legal world, and these guys do amazing work, and they do not charge these people for this. This is why we have to fund it, because a lot of these immigrant communities cannot afford these services that would allow them to stay in this country. And then the final one, and I apologize because I am not a Spanish speaker, so I hope I do not screw this up, is Unidos Minnesota, which is a grassroots organization that builds power with Minnesota's working families to advance social, racial, and economic justice for all. This includes community organizing, leadership development, and power building to address root causes of injustice. All of these groups are doing essential work on the ground. All of your money will go towards those services. You know, these groups don't have a lot of overhead. The money that they get, they pour right back into the community. So it is very, very important that we raise as much money as possible to make the people who are the target of ICE their life a little bit easier and give them the resources that they need to fight back against this lawless exercise that the Trump administration is doing to essentially stoke racial fear all across the country, because everything else that he is doing is unpopular. And actually, this may be the most unpopular thing that he has done to date. His numbers are in the mid 30s. There are stories of House Republicans in very deep red districts that they are retiring instead of running because they know they're in a lot of trouble. So he has to do things to distract. And one of the ways that he will do that is stoking racial fear where there really should be none. We have seen time and time again that immigrants, both undocumented and people with legal status, contribute to the economy more than they take. The Cato Institute just put out a study. They looked at immigration over 30 years, both legal and undocumented. What they found is that no matter what their status was, the mere fact that they are here drives more surpluses when we are driving deficits as a country. They are helping to lower those deficits because, frankly, they pay a lot into the system. They pay taxes, and they do not get the benefits like Social Security and things like that. So us removing them, take out the cruelty for a second. Just think about your pocketbook for a second. We are screwing ourselves. We don't have enough workers to do the jobs that a lot of them want to do. Also, these are people that are kind and loving members of our community. And to see what we are seeing, and it's not just the immigrant communities, right? We're also seeing other people, Renee Good, Alex Preddy, who were murdered, along with 7 other Americans, by the way. ICE is, I believe, at 9 Americans murdered across the country, all for standing up for immigrant rights, all while they are masked, all while they have no legal right to be doing what they're doing. So that is why it is so important for us to get together and say no to this, and fund the groups on the ground that are doing just absolutely vital work. It could mean the difference between someone having legal representation when they are snatched by a masked ICE agent, or a lawyer that can actually stand up and say no and get a judge to release them. This is the type of life and death stuff that we are talking about here, folks. Some of this also, like the fact that these communities can't go outside, which means they can't get groceries. They can't get formula for their babies. They can't get diapers. They can't get anything because they are afraid to go outside. These groups are helping to bring stuff to their doors so that they don't have to worry about being snatched by someone that they don't even know whether they're a law enforcement officer or not, because they are masked, they don't identify themselves, and they also lie. Like, they are legally allowed to lie in certain circumstances. So they cannot trust the people that are coming to their doors unless they know they are from these organizations. That is why we are standing here tonight with our brothers and sisters in Minnesota and saying that we are with you. We love you, we care about you, and we are going to do everything we can to make sure your life goes back to normal as soon as possible, and try to make sure that this lawlessness does not happen in other states, which of course we have seen only in blue states. If you want to really get down to the politics of it, Maine, blue state; Minnesota, blue state; Chicago, blue state; Florida, no; Texas, no. You have to ask yourself, why is this happening? And it's all because he wants a distraction, and he knows that if he puts that lawlessness in red states, he's going to start losing voters. So this is the battle that we are up against. This is literally a good versus evil situation. What the Trump administration is doing is cruel, inhumane, wrong, and illegal. And we can't do much about the illegal on them right now. That will come after midterms and hopefully after 2028. But right now, what we need to do is help the communities on the ground that need it most. So with that, I've spoken for 10 minutes. You're probably like, why the hell is this guy rambling on so long? I want to actually see some of the people that um, I came to see tonight. So, our very, very first panel is with, and excuse me for just 1 second here, which of course I have lost it, but I believe that we have two very, very, very important people. One is Adam Mockler, who is a big influencer, and you might see him on CNN sometimes. And you also have Aaron Rupar, who runs, oh, Mo, I'm going to forget the name of his public notice. I'm a subscriber, so you'd think I would know that. Also, somebody from Minnesota. So they are going to be our first panel, and then we're going to have 2 hours of people that you know, some people you don't. But the most important thing here is that you click, either you hit that button or hit that button, make a donation while we tell you more about what's going on here. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my first panel, that is Aaron and Adam. You guys are ready?
Yep.
All right, take it from here.
Cool. First of all, let me get my camera back on. Thank you guys for having us. We want to give a huge thank you to Mayor Jacob Fry, who needs no introduction for the time. You know, Aaron Rupar, since you live in your constituent, I want to see in Minneapolis, I want to let you have the first question here.
Okay. Well, good to see you again, Mayor Fry. We were kind of joking before we went live here that we used to text back when I was a reporter at the City Pages here in Minneapolis, and Jacob was a council member back at that time. So it's good to chat again. One thing I've been curious about that I think hasn't been covered too much is just kind of the business impact of the ongoing, ICE. I don't know if occupation is too strong of a word. It kind of feels that way a lot of the time. But I'm sure you're getting around talking to business owners. What's your sense of the impact that it's having? And is there any way to kind of quantify that at this point?
Yes, thank you, Aaron. Good to see you. By the way, can you guys see me? I could see you a second ago, but you can see me all right? Okay,
Yep.
good.
I see you.
So just yesterday, I got a briefing on my desk that gave a rundown of some of the financial impacts that we're seeing. And for small businesses, it's between 10 and $20 million per week for some of these businesses along our cultural corridor. I mean, they are down over 50% in sales. For hotels, they're down $4.4 million that they have already lost. And so the impact is staggering. And for an administration at the federal level that claims to really care about business, this has been devastating for the economy, devastating for business. And whether it's Latino owned, Black owned, white owned, whatever, the truth is that we're an integrated economy. And all businesses rely in some form on immigrant labor and work and entrepreneurial spirit. And so everybody is dramatically impacted by this. If you want the economy to come back, the quickest way is to have ICE to leave. We were seeing a massive comeback, and we need to see it continue.
It's insane that this administration brags about bringing in tariffs, which help the large corporations, and then consistently screws over local businesses, small businesses, with the same tariffs and with the occupation of ICE. I guess on a quick separate note, I feel like we see this administration invert reality a lot when it comes to how they speak about what's on the ground and what's actually on the ground. So they call the peaceful protesters, quote unquote, agitators. Rather than investigating ICE, they have investigated you and Governor Tim Walz, quite literally just inversing what's happening. Can you expand a little bit more on the 96 court orders that have been violated by ICE? Judge Schiltz said that in January, apparently, they have violated more court orders than most agencies have in their lifetime. Is that true?
Yeah, and if it weren't so terrifying, it would be comical. Look, abiding by a court order is one of the most foundational principles of the endurance for our republic. It's not like our judicial system has a sitting army, but you trust in the judicial system. You abide by it. And when there is a court order, you work with the court order and you do what it's telling you to do. And to have, whether it's two court orders that you're not complying with or 96 court orders that you're not complying with, this is ludicrous. And people, regardless of partisan stripe, should absolutely be freaking out right now and be incredibly angry because this is not okay. It's a violation of the separation of powers. It's a violation of our Constitution. It's a violation of these orders themselves. And on top of that, as you mentioned, they've got the Department of Justice that I have always had, traditionally this immense respect for. These are some of the top attorneys that you have in the whole country that go to work for the Department of Justice. These are these. I mean, I guess bureaucrat would be the traditional derogatory term, but it's really not. Like, these are public servants that do this work not because they care about making a heap ton of money as like a lawyer. They care about it. They do it because they care about our democracy. And they have served for multiple different administrations, multiple parties. And it's this sort of service that rises above partisanship or any one leader. It's about our country. Now, of course, you've got these top notch attorneys that have all said, screw it, we're out. This is wild stuff. We're jumping ship. Um, this is not about working on fraud anymore. They were all for working on the fraud. Now the top fraud lawyers have left.
Yep.
For those that say about gangs, the top gang lawyers have left. The top safety lawyers have left. The top lawyers, for the most part, have all left. And instead of investigating the person that killed Renee Good, they're investigating me. They're investigating Governor Walz, based on allegations that I guess we have done the responsibilities that we're required to carry out as mayor, which is to, speak on behalf of our constituents. It's very concerning.
I have one question for you on kind of the public safety component of this. I'm sure you have seen, as many of us here in Minneapolis have seen, some of the videos of, even beyond the Peretti and Renee Good, other instances where federal agents have really behaved recklessly. There was one just yesterday of them drawing guns on a carload of observers, and then on Sunday at the Powderhorn Recreation Center, which obviously I understand is a more of a park issue, but where they were kind of gassing people over there. Obviously, even after the quote unquote drawdown, there's something like 2,000 federal officers versus like 500 Minneapolis cops. But is there anything from like a public safety standpoint that the city can do, when you see a video like that, to try to hold any of these agents accountable who are acting really recklessly, or just what precautions can the city take to try to make it so that there isn't another Alex Peretti or Renee Good?
Yeah.
So I'm curious to hear about that.
Yeah. Well, first, let me start with the obvious stuff that may not be obvious. Record them. Use your cell phone. That is a completely constitutional activity where you use your cell phone, you record what's happening on one of the best disinfectants is sunlight. Second, call 911. As you know, we have a separation ordinance. We in Minneapolis and our police officers do not enforce federal immigration law. That being said, we do respond to make sure we're keeping the peace. And importantly, we also document. Our police officers do have body cameras. They have had body cameras for, I don't know, 8 years or 7 years or whatever it's been. They're going to be turning them on. We gather information. We collect that information as evidence. We use it in court. And the more eyes that are watching what's happening, including, by the way, our police officers, the less likely they're going to do something that is horrific. Look, I am hopeful, not certain, but hopeful that they will both be drawing down the numbers of ICE agents and Border Patrol, and the conduct will be changing in the sense that, it's not these roving bands of, ICE agents just kind of randomly going around the street picking up people that look like they might be Latino or might be Somali. But it's more targeted. At least that's what they are saying. But again, I'll believe it when I see it. You're asking the right questions, though, because this is a very concerning time when the limited numbers of police officers that we have are dealing with these. It used to be 3,000 to 4,000 ICE agents. Now it's probably somewhere around 2,000 is what we're looking at. But either way, it's problematic. And I'll give you one just anecdote here. When Alex Peretti was killed, at that moment in time, we had 30 police officers in total that were working on shift for the city. It was a Saturday or a Sunday morning or something, and 30 officers in total throughout the city that have to do all their regular work. Meanwhile, there were, I don't know, dozens and dozens of ICE agents on site on that location when this happened. And so that's kind of what we're up against.
Can I ask you a little bit about the vibe on the ground, the difference between the different leadership? Like at first, it seemed to have been Greg Bovino was leading the charge. Now Tom Homan is on
Yeah.
the ground. Can you explain what the vibe has been like with Tom Homan? How has it been with him leading the charge lately?
I mean, I can't speak for the vibe internally within ICE. Um, I can tell you the intent, or at least the stated intent from Trump when he brought Homan in. The intent was supposedly to bring down the temperature. Um, I've never met Bovino. I've never met Christy Nome. I have sat down with Homan, and he did make clear that what was happening was not okay, and changes would be made. Uh, he did make clear that the purpose of him being there was to bring down the temperature and to change the chain of command structure. Uh, Now, as he's stated, there's a number of things that we obviously disagree on, and those disagreements continue. And as far as the statements that he's made about drawing the numbers down, look, one, I'll believe it when I see it, but two, numbers are all relative. And while 2000 is less than 2,700, 2000 is still like 20 times greater than the numbers that we had pre Operation Metro Surge.
One question I have for you is, obviously there's been a lot made of this investigation that you referenced into you, and I'm sure you're limited in how much you can say about that, but it's kind of surreal because I think all of us kind of understand that this is like a preposterous investigation, but still, when you have federal authorities investigating you, like how stressful is that for you personally, and is it something that you really have to kind of spend time like working to defend yourself? I'm sure you've kind of offloaded that to attorneys, but like I'm just curious what that is like to be targeted in a very specific way that could, in theory, have some real consequences, even though the public perception rightfully is that this is kind of just an absurdity.
Yeah, well, I think you're right in that it is an absurdity. You're right that there is no merit to any of it. And I'll tell you, we're not backing down. Look, our separation ordinance, which we are not backing away from, our commitment to it is rock solid. We will not and are not enforcing federal immigration law. That is a principle that we have had in Minneapolis for a long time, not something I'm changing. My willingness to speak on behalf of my constituents is quite literally written into my responsibilities as mayor when I sign my oath of office. And so, no, I'm not backing away from that either. Um, it's but I guess to your question, does it have an impact on you, personally? Of course it does. I mean, never in a million years did I think I would be getting investigated by the Department of Justice, which I always saw as a pretty reputable organization, uh, for kind of unknown reasons beyond that which I know are my responsibilities as mayor. Uh, and so while it has no merit, of course it's disconcerting. Um, of course, and of course we sadly do have to spend some time, not a ton. Yes, I can offload the vast majority of it to lawyers and attorneys who are fabulous and they do their good work and can represent me. Um, but I'd be lying if I said to you, hey, there wasn't at least a night or two there where I was thinking about it. And just considering, hey, I got a family, I got a 6 month old. I got a 5 year old. I got, last time I did this interview talking about this, I didn't mention Sarah, my wife, and she got kind of pissed off. So I've got this extraordinary wife, who above all, more importantly than the children by a long shot. And it's, yeah, it's real. It hits home.
I have one final question on my end. I was listening to the Minneapolis police chief explain how, over the past 5 years or so, there has been a very intentional building of trust with the community in a post George Floyd world after all of that happened. The rebuilding of trust was very intentional on behalf of everyone, and ICE has kind of gone in, muddied the waters, and broken that apart in the course of 1 year. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, the chief gave a great statistic, and I'm going to totally screw it up here, but the statistic was something like in the past 2 years, we've gotten however many hundreds of guns off the street. The Minneapolis Police Department has gotten however many hundreds of guns off the street and not shot anybody. And in just 3 weeks, ICE has shot 3 people. And so we have done a lot of very intentional and methodical work around shifting the culture of the police department, training officers in so that when they encounter an intense situation, it's like muscle memory. They know what to do. And granted, we still have work to do, but I'm proud, really proud of the Minneapolis Police Department and the work that they have done to gain trust. Some of their most intense critics. I don't know if they'd say it publicly, but I've certainly heard it privately. Some of their most intense critics have been applauding the work that Chief O'Hara and our police have been undergoing. And they see the juxtaposition between the way that our cops handle things and the way that ICE handles things. And so, again, we're not there yet, but huge amounts of work, and the fact that you haven't seen the same complaints, you haven't seen the same violence, of police violence, you haven't seen the same kind of conduct from our Minneapolis Police Department, I think says something.
I guess my exit question, I know your time is limited. Thank you for, taking some time out of a very busy day and very busy time to do this. I'm curious how you see this ending. Homan was kind of speaking out of both sides of his mouth this morning, where he was talking about a drawdown, but then in the next breath, that they aren't going to compromise, they're going to enforce immigration law, and citing the rhetoric, which has kind of become this like catch-all for just being upset at Democrats, it seems. But did you view his comments as being kind of like a first step toward them actually like really drawing down in a meaningful way where kind of normalcy can resume here, or how do you see this ending, and what kind of time frame do you see that on?
I mean, certainly it's my hope that they are drawing down. I don't think collectively that they believe that this is going well from a political standpoint. Um, I am hopeful that in the very near future here that they're going to be drawing down substantially, and then they will say that they are drawing down so that people feel more comfortable turning on the lights and opening the doors and going back to work and having these commercial corridors revitalized. I don't want to make any predictions because I think had I made predictions months ago, I would be wrong about a whole lot of it. I mean, this is worse than I would have ever imagined. Um, and so I don't want to give you an exact time frame because candidly really don't know. I do know that here's what I do know. I do know that for people around the rest of the country, I've heard some public officials, some electeds, some CEOs say a phrase that is something close to, well, I got to keep my head down because I don't want to be targeted next. That is a bullshit argument. You will be next. You will be targeted. If we don't all speak up when we see violations that are wildly unconstitutional, then ultimately there's a ripple effect and they come for every city and every business that isn't just complying. This is about compliance. This is about trying to set a national agenda and roll out a national agenda by coercing local officials to adopt the desired policy. That's what this is about. And so you can't back down in these circumstances. You got to speak up. And it's got to be all of us doing so.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your steady-handed leadership. We really do appreciate it, and continue fighting the good fight.
Thank you guys so much. Keep up the great work yourselves.
Take care.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Mayor Fry. Thank you, Aaron, and thank you, Adam, for all of this. That was a really great conversation, and I think is a really important thing that the mayor said, where essentially, like, the city police officers have managed to reduce gun crimes dramatically over the past few years, and ICE has come in and already, like, basically tripled the number of shootings that have happened with a law enforcement officer involved. So, thank you for raising awareness about that and showing just how devastating this has been for ICE to come in. Now, before we move on to the next one, I was pointing to the bottom right-hand corner because I don't see the same screen that you guys do, but the donate QR code is at the bottom left here. And for those organizations that I mentioned before, the money that we raise tonight is going to go directly to them. So if you can spare $5, $10, $25, $100, all of that will go to helping people on the ground, help the immigrant communities who need it most. And with that, I think I am going to introduce panel number 2 that we are about to have on, and I am going to give some bios of these folks, and then they're gonna spend some time talking about this. But you're gonna know some of these people, and I'm actually really excited to hear some of them directly. So we've got Kyla, otherwise known as Not So Erudite. They are a content creator specializing in political commentary, psychological analysis, and public debate. Engages with a wide range of social and philosophical topics through live discussions, interviews, and formal debates. We also have Riverboat Jack, is a Minneapolis-based live streamer who discusses politics, news, and gaming. We also have the well-known social media influencer Jolly Good Ginger, who is a community builder, digital storyteller, and public advocate whose signature blend of warmth, humor, and insight has earned him a devoted following of more than 2 million followers across platforms. Jolly has been on the ground in Minneapolis covering the recent events, so we're really excited to hear from him. We also have Toussaint Morrison, who is a Minneapolis-based artist, activist, and influencer. He creates spoken word-driven content focused on social justice, race, and community empowerment. Morrison blends poetry, performance, and political messaging to engage audiences around cultural and civic issues. And last but not least, we have Sean McPherson, another resident of Minneapolis, who is a musician, radio host, and podcaster. He's been doing great coverage of the ICE occupation, and we are excited to have his perspective. So everybody, take it from here.
Hello, welcome everybody. Well, I'm excited to have you all. I can see we have participants flashing in and out, so hopefully this will be steepled. So for the purpose of this discussion, I want to encourage you guys, if you guys are noticing somebody's talking for too long, do feel free to jump in. I really want this to be like a really casual, flowing conversation. But I kind of wanted to start out when we're talking about Minnesota and everything that's been going on. And obviously ICE has basically been the largest pushback against the Republicans, unfortunately, that we've seen across the nation, basically since Trump got elected, which has been nice to see, a little, I would argue, light to see, but it's nice to see. Are you guys, especially people in Minnesota, have you guys been surprised by the number of Republican officials that have actually come out so critical of ICE?
I mean, for my part, I found it shocking that a Republican dropped out of the race for governor like last week or the week before, saying he could no longer be affiliated with the Republican Party, while still spewing a lot of traditionally Republican talking points in the process, of course. But it really does show that this is something that has legs beyond just Democrats. And I look forward to seeing more of that, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Sean or Toussaint?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm surprised more so at the Republicans who are still standing 10 toes down on their stance on ICE. When you see Lisa DeMuth's daughter speak out against her and openly refute her in Lisa's own comment section, that was pretty embarrassing for Lisa. And as for what was just mentioned with Chris Medell, that was interesting that he bowed out because he's made a career out of defending killer cops. Brian Londrigan to be one of them who killed Ricky Cobb. And it seemed like it was damage control for Chris, because we'll see him back in court defending another killer cop. But when it becomes too obvious and it affects his bottom line, then it becomes a problem for Chris. So it was interesting to watch him bail out with the words that he used. That 10-minute video probably could have been 30 seconds, but yeah, I've been surprised by some of the Republicans.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of them are defecting out of pure self-interest. You know, it's not they suddenly found their better angel.
For sure.
Well, I think some of the ways that
Yep.
people have to respond do go across partisan lines, because there's people standing outside of daycares, there's people standing outside of schools in vests that is clearly not normal, and you go into the most leftist hippie part of South Minneapolis, there's still some Republicans that have their kids there, and it's this moment where you go, it's not right to have people having to guard places of education. And it means that I think there's a lot of Republicans who are going, no matter how I'm aligned nationally, I can't be aligned with what this is locally.
Yeah, those schools have really turned into like hubs where people are really coming together regardless of their political background. Because like when you start seeing like a kid is being snatched from the school by ICE, like it doesn't matter what your political background is. You're like, I got to make sure my kid is safe. I got to make sure their friends are safe. And like suddenly it becomes a much wider reaching issue for folks.
Yeah, it's frustrating that we see Republicans caring when it's affecting their bottom line or their loved ones, or they recognize that it could be somebody that they know. Suddenly now it matters. But do you guys feel that Democrats are doing enough? Are you guys satisfied with the Democrat response so far? Do you guys want to see more? How do you feel the party, both state-wise but also nationally, is responding to this ICE invasion of Minnesota?
To be honest, it's been kind of embarrassing for our mayor to not be able to call it murder, or to be able to, what happened to Renee Good and Alex Preddy, or to say abolish ICE, when you're seeing a lot of other elected officials say the same thing. So to answer your question shortly, no, I don't think Democrats have done enough. They could do a lot more, even in just the language. And what we're seeing, what we were talking about just earlier, is that this is affecting a lot of people's careers. And integrity is doing the right thing even when nobody's looking. But now some people are starting to speak up and do the right thing when, you know, it affects their bottom line. But even Democrats, it's been pretty embarrassing to see it, especially for the mayor, to still not be able to say abolish ICE while he's watching the residents of the city that he presides over be murdered in the street.
Yeah, I will say I've been impressed by some of the lower level folks who are doing, like Jason Chavez is out there like all the time doing work.
Could you tell us
and,
his
like,
position, just for viewers who are not familiar with Jason or anything?
Sorry, Minneapolis City Council.
Awesome.
And he's been out just he's everywhere. Like he's genuinely all over the place, and he is constantly directing folks to community actions that they can take. And it's some real leadership we're seeing out of folks like him. And I would also say that there are people on the local level who are trying their best, but they're running into barriers. Like I know ICE has been staging at a number of the parks throughout the city, and the parks board is trying to do what they can, but like they don't have the ability to really stop that from happening at the moment. And so I know that they have like a plan right now to put together like kind of a map of where these incidents are taking place, so that people can plan around that and people can act accordingly. And I know that they're also compiling evidence for future prosecution, but it's, you know, a lot of really good people with a lot of really great intentions who do not have enough power to stop what is happening right now. And it's deeply frustrating. And then you get above like the local level folks who are directly attached to what's happening, and the farther you get up the chain, the more frustrated I get with Democratic leadership.
I get more and more disconnected. Yeah, I see. We got Jolly Good Ginger in here. Do we have you yet? Do we have the mic working and such?
Can you hear me?
Yes, success. Just to loop you in so that you're kind of following in, we're just talking about if we feel.
I
that
heard
the
everything. Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So I'll throw it to you or to Sean if either of you have thoughts on this topic as well.
I mean, I don't care. The Republicans condemn ICE now. I don't. You don't get a brownie point for being a Nazi and then saying that some Nazis are worse than you. Are Democrats doing enough? No, Democrats are not doing shit. I mean, what is enough? I mean, for me to say that Democrats are not doing enough would be for me to be implying that Democrats have done anything. Okay, there was a vote to not fund ICE. And here's what happens on Capitol Hill. I know because I spend a lot of time on Capitol Hill. I interview these guys. I know them by name. They know me by name, right? And we have a love-hate relationship. And there's this game we play where the 7 Democrats that voted no, I'm sorry, that voted yes, are the bad guys, and we're the good guys. No, you're not. You're not. Either there needs to be hell to pay in the Democratic Party when you break ranks and vote with Nazis, and we're not making them pay hell. We're just playing word games where we say, "Oh, they're bad, but see, I'm good." Right? This is what white people do too. I'm the not racist white person. I don't no fight white supremacy and shut up. So what Democrats are not doing is making their colleagues shit or get off the pot. And it's high time that Democrats do that. Otherwise, I'm tired of the conversation of either party, because I'm seeing, is the government even going to save us, or are we just stuck saving ourselves? And I think that's a message a lot of us are currently relating to. I was in North Minneapolis when ICE shot the guy in the leg through the door. I was there 20 minutes after it happened. I watched ICE gas us so much that there was so much gas in the air you could not physically see through it. And then Minnesota State Police and Minneapolis Police Department came in and gassed us next. So now, and I know Mayor Fry was just on, sorry I missed that one, because I would love to ask Mayor Fry, why is Minneapolis Police Department providing cover for ICE to withdraw from that neighborhood, and then they gassed us on the way out? So this conversation of, are Democrats doing enough, Republicans are now condemning it, I'm not interested. ICE out, what are you doing for that? Or else you're not doing nothing. That's where I'm at.
So what do you guys want to see? Like when we're saying Democrats are not doing enough, what would success in the protest? If you feel like walked away and went, this was a successful protest, we got what we wanted. What would that look like, both tangibly and maybe even like some specific policy, if you guys have in mind?
It would look like them being gone. Like they are all over the place. They are. I mean, like, frankly, I got so angry today because Chuck Schumer yet again goes out there and starts talking about reforming ICE. And like, I'm sorry, I think of the Jackson family in Minneapolis who had 6 of their kids in the car, and they were trying to get out of an area where protests were happening, and ICE heard them say that and then shot deliberately a flash grenade under their car, disabling it, and then shot a gas canister into their car. One of their kids almost died, had to get CPR, 6 months old. And I there's no reforming this. There's no reforming this. Like, you have DHS recruiting people with ads like for 100 million deportations. And like, there's not 100 million undocumented immigrants in this country. There are 100 million non-white people in this country, and that's the purpose of this. They give away the game every single time that they go on camera these days, and it's not subtle. And we need Democrats to have a spine to be able to stand up to this and be able to actually meet it. And right now, I don't see enough of one. And it's,
if I can interject, I know I just went on a little rant. I apologize, but I'm a Riverboat Jack. Agreed, 100%. Because here's my thing about this: Democrats showing up to detention facilities and being denied entrance. I want my Democratic leader beating the door down, right? I want the local, hey, you're not letting me in? Well, I'm not. Well, that's not how this is going to go. I'm an elected official. I represent 80,000, 180,000, 200,000, how many ever constituents you have. And you, new guy who got 47 days of training and was playing Call of Duty 48 days ago, doesn't get to tell me I'm not coming to the front door. I want to see Democratic officials out here in the street with us, getting gas with us, marching with us. Oh, jolly, what does that do? That does everything. That does everything. Because I understand that we have this concept that there has to be a tangible policy. And I'm not taking a dart at your question, by the way. Your question is good. So this isn't directed to you. But there has to be this tangible policy result at the end of it for it to be a successful protest. No. Resistance looks like a lot of things. Resistance looks like protest. Resistance looks like leadership. Resistance looks like joy. Resistance looks like art. There's a lot of resistance, and people need to have the flame lit in them to resist. And when Democrats are not out on the street with us, when Democrats are not beating the doors down of these detention facilities, when Democrats are not holding to account the atrocities that's happening, how the hell can we depend on Democrats? And I don't want to hear the rules of Congress and we're the minority party. I don't care. They're not playing by the rules. So can you please close the rule book too? Thank you.
And
Just on, yeah.
from the vantage point I'm at, I hear a lot of what people are saying. And I think being in St. Paul, Minneapolis, there's some silver linings from elected officials that I really do see on the ground. And I want to give them some credit, particularly Elliot Payne and Doran Clark, who are on Central Avenue every day, out there doing a lot of what Jolly is talking about. And I understand that that doesn't mean that we are embracing everything that has happened from the Democratic Party, but we see people at the city council level who are out taking care of their constituents, getting gassed, being courageous, and it's worth saying that. And the other thing I want to mention is that while we have a national audience, I want people to understand that this isn't like regular immigration enforcement on steroids. This is a completely different thing. It has no resemblance to anything related to immigration enforcement. This is masked individuals that have no relation to warrants, no respect for the rule of law. So don't think of it as a different variety of something lawful. It is not lawful, period. There is not a resemblance between this and any form of lawful enforcement.
Thank you for pointing that out, Sean, because I was talking specifically about federally elected officials, and I'm glad you pointed out that these locally elected officials are out here doing work, and I appreciate you pointing that out.
And to add to that, City Council member Hwajan Kim of St. Paul, she's been out there as well in the streets, and then also, for whatever it's worth, and I'm not a John Troy stan because he's basically he's come to the abatement of killer cops in the past, but he
and this is the Ramsey County attorney. I just for
Ramsey
folks who don't know,
County district attorney. He's opened investigations to federally investigations into federal officers before Mary Moriarty did, and I know that him and John Kelly and Hao Wen are working to ensure that if that ever happens in St. Paul, they would be able to move as quick as possible. But back to what Jolly was saying. If a Democrat, like who's the lesser Nazi of the whole situation, it's not. All of this is, a lot of it is just like pacifying people. When you see the chief of police in Minneapolis doing podcast after podcast saying this isn't right, well then do something, like do something. And if you had people responding to this the way that they responded to Black Death as well, and it's not to like merit or one or the other, but you're seeing this now on a larger scale. You saw a pastor talk about it at a service, like, oh, you're feeling uncomfortable right now. Well, now just take note of that, and then think of how Black communities have felt for the whole time. And so when we look at a poster of Renee Good and Alex Preddy get spray painted over it in DC that says George Watson, and people are trying to frame it and be like, hey, you have these great messages, you have this great graphic design that's getting the message through, and we want you to understand that all of it is bad, and let's not be selective about it. And the thing is that because it's affecting a white community right now in Minnesota, affecting white Minnesotans, like the mayor and the chief of police are in the proverbial hot seat, but still have not done enough. And you're talking about a mayor who voted against the ceasefire that the city council put up. He's promoted killer cops in the police department. So it's hard to expect anything from him or Brian O'Hara, even though Brian O'Hara talks a good game and can hold a conversation for a long time on a podcast.
So if you guys were like, go ahead, maybe I'll toss it back to you guys, but yeah, just to quickly, if you guys were finding a politician that you'd like go like, you are getting the soul of what we're talking about. I think Mamdani did a really good job in his run, because I think he connected with the soul of his people in a lot of way. It sounds like, something that Ginger's bringing up is, I want to see you on the ground. I want to see you there physically with us so that you can experience it. Are there other things that you guys would be looking for? And just to toss it back to Jack, because I did cut you off when
it's all good. I was just gonna bring it back around. You asked like what policy, and abolish DHS, abolish ICE. Like, the entire system is rotten to the core if it is capable of being used this way. There is no reforming this. Like, the genie's out of the bottle. We gotta throw that bottle in the garbage where it belongs. And as far as like locally, what I would like elected folks to be doing, I want to see, like, it is a beautiful story of community coming together, that, like, you know, these impromptu pantries are being filled. People are volunteering to deliver groceries to folks who are too scared to leave their houses. And like, it is a level of solidarity that I have not witnessed before, or at least in a very long time. And I want to see the city and the state stepping up in those regards. I want to see an eviction like moratorium. I want to see like bigger guns being pulled out regarding like supporting the material needs of people on the ground, because it's kind of ridiculous. We elected you guys. Like, help us. Help us. And like, the level of rage that people are feeling right now, like, it is immense. And I know I'm not alone in feeling it, but it is burning every day under the surface of all of this solidarity, and like, we need some help.
So I really, you brought up the DHS thing. Thank you, because I will tie right back to what I don't want to say it wrong. Is it Toussaint? Am I saying it right? Toussaint?
Yeah, Toussaint.
Okay, cool. So right back to what Toussaint was saying. I said the other day, I believe I was with Don Lemon, I think I was with, on his live stream, and I said, let's talk about this case. He had a legal, he was a legal gun owner. The officer approached him first. He complied with the officer's orders, and he was still shot to death. And I asked the live stream, we're all talking about Alex Pretty, right? They said, yeah. I was talking about Philando Castile. So what people need to quickly realize is what ICE is doing is what we've allowed police to do to Black, brown, and indigenous people forever. When you bring up DHS was formed, for anybody who may not remember this, post 9/11 Patriot Act, as a way to racially profile Muslims. Okay, so DHS was never like this good program that had good intentions. It was built in the height of Islamophobia and the height of pre-Afghanistan, pre-Iraq war. We got to go fight the terrorists, which meant Muslims the whole time. And that's what DHS was established for. We don't need it. Abolish DHS. So when I look at the federal level, that's all I want to hear from politics. I don't want to hear this Alyssa Slotkin neutrality where we need immigration enforcement. I believe it was Sean that said this isn't immigration enforcement on steroids. This is just something different. Bingo. If you want to talk about immigration enforcement, whatever, I don't care. It's not ICE and it's not DHS. Bye. Right? We did it just fine through 2001 without it. So that's what I want to see at the federal level. And on the local level, I'm going to tell you something as an out-of-towner. And I chased ICE in Chicago. I chased ICE in DC. And I came here and I chased ICE in Minneapolis. And I documented the whole thing. And I'm telling you something, Minneapolis, and this is no shade to Chicago or DC, because I love Chicago. But Minneapolis is an amazing city. And they have one of the most sophisticated network of mutual aid and rapid response that I've seen out of any city. So what would I like to see from local leaders here? The leaders that this city deserves, because this is an amazing city and they're putting in all the work. And if you're not one of the leaders doing the work with this city, they deserve better.
Just in our last 5 minutes, I just wanted to make a mention. I've heard a lot of really amazing stories of local businesses, as you said, becoming pantries, just giving up their day-to-day business and supporting protesters, giving them warm spaces to just sit in and get drinks and food and use the bathroom. Do you guys have any stories, or have you guys been connecting with these small local businesses and people kind of supporting each other at this organic ground level?
I'll
Yeah,
go first,
I
Mike.
have.
Go ahead,
Go
Sean.
for it.
You go, Sean. Go.
You don't really go into many businesses that don't have these signs that are printed out from Monarca, which is another organization doing amazing work in here, that says everyone is welcome except for ICE. And you see these saying you need to have a warrant to come in. And that's quasi universal for small businesses in the worlds I traffic in. And what you're seeing above and beyond that is almost every spot you go, you just go to the bathroom and you go, oh, there's the food drive. You go to some different corner and you go, oh, that's where the Venmo links are for people to support it. It's not 100% of places that are doing that, but the way that small businesses, and I really need to underline small businesses because I've been very disappointed by what the Fortune 500 companies have done in the Twin Cities, but small businesses have responded in a disproportionately important way to make sure that people get support they need. And you mentioned how amazing Minneapolis is, Jolly, and I just want to say that's because we've been through this before. That and a lot of that came from Black and Brown activism, starting with Jamar Clark and the killing of Jamar Clark in Minneapolis. And those networks are not 2 months old. Maybe the Signal chat is, but the networks that support it are over 10 years old and in some cases longer. And that's why I think small business knew what they had to do, because people would come with questions if they didn't.
That's my litmus test of whether I walk through the front door in Minneapolis. If you don't have the everybody's welcome but I sign, I'll go to the next business. But I just want to shout out one business specifically, Smitten Kitten. It was the first one that I went into.
Right.
There's plenty of them here. I can name 10 off the top of my head that are doing a lot of mutual aid. But Smitten Kitten was the first one I found. And what blew me away was they're a sex shop, by the way. And you walk in and it's a shop. They sell things, but they couldn't do business because they had diapers and food and other supplies from the floor to the ceiling. There was a line of people waiting to just hand out donations because they're also, by the way, in contact with people that can't pay their rent because they can't go to work, because if you leave your house, ICE will snatch you up, right? And then they had volunteers out front of their store guarding the store because, by the way, ICE was harassing their mutual fund operation. I mean, if we're talking about immigration enforcement, what part of immigration enforcement is assigning some of your agents to go harass mutual aid sites and small businesses? So, there's a lot of them doing it. Hola Arepa, Rectangle Pizza. I mean, the list is very long of businesses that are doing this. And I beg everybody who's not in Minneapolis to get online and find out what those businesses are and please support them.
And I would just like to shout out Powwow Grounds in Minneapolis. They have been that like genuinely like it's wild. They are kind of a hub coordinating a lot of ICE observation patrols. They are gathering material goods like blankets because it's cold out here, guys. For folks in the community who need them, like folks who are really, because again, a lot of business has slowed in the Twin Cities area as a result of this occupation, and like people are afraid to go to work, and so like some of these things that seem like basic necessities are really required for people out there. And I just also want to note, like, Powwow Grounds, it's indigenous, and like the indigenous community here in Minneapolis has especially been targeted by ICE as well. Like they're it doesn't matter if you're a citizen or not. If they think you look different or talk different, they're gonna harass you at best, and at worst disappear you. It is really difficult to put into words, like the aura of terror that they have unleashed on this city, and the solidarity is the thing keeping it at bay right now. We're keeping us safe, but it'd be great if we had some help.
IndigenousProtectorMovement.org. Go there.
I would shout out Ben, large white man who works at Rectangle. When in 2020 in June, when we were at an anti-protest, which I would not recommend anybody to go to before getting informed on it. I remember Nerdy Matt was at the counter protest, and he made an announcement on the megaphone. He said, "White folks, I need you to be a shield and not a sword right now, because provoking these people are just going to bring violence to the brown and black folks that are out at the protest here." And many times, I mean, in this fight, like Sean mentioned, back to Jamar Clark getting murdered by the Minneapolis Police Department, what was needed in many times was for white folks to, be a shield or get involved at all. And even when it seemingly doesn't affect you, Remember when Justine DeMond was murdered by the police? That everybody pulled up, and all of Southwest Minneapolis did. But Ben put himself between, the place that he's employed at and an ICE officer, and scared the shit out of him too, rightfully. The guy reached for like imaginary things on his chest. He didn't even know what to do about it. So there's certain people that are pulling up and doing the things that need to be done. And also a litmus test to piggyback on what Jolly said. If an elected official says we just need to train them better, you can't train the racism out of these people. You can't train the fascism out of them. The training is not the issue. So when Cory Booker or Jake Fry, boy mayor of Minneapolis, says that, it's just mind-numbing, because it's like, do you not see the public executions in the street? You can't train that out of those people. So just to add that in.
Yeah. I think one thing that strikes me is I think there's really interesting conversation that has to have around race and around what ICE is. But there's a really interesting thing. You guys are describing this there's a class conversation here, right? You've got small, probably middle and working class and lower class people all donating, all helping each other, serving each other foods, where you've got Fortune 500 companies. It sounds like basically not engaging. They don't want to probably affect their bottom line, and they understand that some of their bottom line is voted for this insanity. It's quite an interesting conversation of, again, the people on the ground, the people most affected by wealth disparity, most affected by ICE agents, are also the people banding together and supporting one another. Do you guys have any thoughts kind of about this lens?
There are certain communities that are coming together for that, like St. Anthony Park and St. Paul, high property value. There are some places in Southwest Minneapolis, and I think a lot of people, it's uncomfortable for them to talk about that, because a lot of the redlining and racial covenants are the reason why some of these white communities can exist in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And now that they're seeing themselves in Renee Good and Alex Preddy, they're chipping in, and I forget the psychological word for it, but there are some communities that are actually chipping in, as before in 2020, and I'm sure Sean can speak to this, or Jack, but there were certain communities that were like entirely in 2020 that was like, hey, I'm Paul and this is between y'all. And it was like, really? I'm pretty sure they're coming for you next. Like, now that they have checkpoints off of like highways and whatnot, there are certain communities that are chipping in.
Awesome. Tim, I noticed you popped in.
Yeah, I think this has gone by incredibly fast, and I just want to thank you all. And it's in particular, I am not from Minnesota, and it's been very, very fascinating to hear from all of you talk about what you need on the ground, and I really appreciate it. And I know I've learned a lot about this, so thank you all for joining, and keep doing the work you're doing. And also, people who are watching, please donate to these groups on the QR code below, because this is Jolly. Do you have something on your tattoo? Is you showing us on your tattoo something? What does it say?
Shout out to Uptown. It says Chinga la Migra. Shout out to Uptown Tattoo.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And it's so great to hear about all the local businesses doing great stuff. So thank you all for doing this. Keep doing your great work, and we've got your back 100%. So thank you for all of this.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So this is a perfect segue into our next guest, who I think pretty much everybody on here will probably know. He has been a mayor of Newark, and he has been a United States senator for several years now. So I think he's coming up right now. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Senator Cory Booker with us tonight. Senator, are you here? We're not here yet. Okay, I'm going to riff while we figure out. Oh, maybe this is it now. Senator, can we hear you? Are you there?
I hope you could hear me.
I could hear you. I can't see you. I don't know if we're just doing audio, but
Nope. Then I was told. Tell me if that works.
there you go. There you
Okay.
go. We can see you.
Okay.
All right. Well, Senator, it's great to have you. Thank you for joining us tonight. I don't know how much you heard about the previous panel, but we had a lot of people that have been doing the work on the ground in Minneapolis. And one of the questions that they have for you and for everybody on the Democratic side in the United States Senate is, what can you do to help them, and how can we get ICE out of our communities?
Well, look, I want to be very candid with you. We are a nation that comes from a history of protest. Change does not come from Washington. It never has, it never will. We didn't get civil rights in America because one day Strom Thurmond came to the Senate floor and said, "I've seen the light. Let those Negro people have the right to vote." We didn't get suffrage because one day a bunch of men on the Senate floor said, "Hey, fellas, everybody bring it in, suffrage on three." Every single step of American progress has had to overcome often challenges from some government entity, whether it was George Wallace and state governments, or even as I know from here we are during a Black History Month, whether it was the federal government itself. I love what Frederick Douglass says: find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you found out the exact measure of injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them. And these will continue until they are resisted. And that's where we are right now. Our country was founded not by the statesmen that dominated, but it was founded by people who were willing to stand up against the unjust imposition of power from elites, from wealthy, from people that were willing to suppress freedoms and rights. Remember, even our Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, didn't come from the framers. That came from people that were demanding things like the right to petition government, the right to assemble, freedom of speech. So I'm where I am, and when I got to Washington, I was the only Black guy in the Democratic caucus, and looked around at a place that never imagined me. I was the fourth Black person ever elected to the United States Senate, and I never forget that I didn't get there because of the action of senators. I got there because of the actions of people like I watched today in your state. So I'm one of those Democrats right now that's upset. There are conversations going on about, frankly, accountability measures that on bills I've carried since George Floyd. Things that are obvious, from body cameras to not letting masked agents run. But I will tell you this right now: when you have an agency invading our communities that is lawless itself, which violates laws, violates our Constitution, violates our rights to privacy, violates our civil rights, violates our lives, kills people, passing more accountability measures is something I will always fight for, but it's not meeting this moment. It's not going to stop the injustices that Donald Trump is continuing to impose into our communities, and not because he's going after violent criminals. He's made it clear he's doing this to try to strip away rights, including voting rights, as he has said through Pam Bondi. If you give me your voter rolls, violate the Constitution, give me this private information of your citizenry, then maybe I'll back off. And now I hear from the new person they put in charge, they may change the head, but the activities going on the ground have not changed. And what is he saying? As soon as I think my officers are safe. Safe from what? From nonviolent citizens exercising their rights? So I'm telling you right now, I'm sorry. But look to your left, look to your right, look to the people standing up with you. That's where your hope is going to come from. That's where your strength is going to come from. That's how we built this democracy. That's how we advanced this nation over injustice after injustice after injustice. That's what they did at Stonewall. That's what they did at Seneca Falls. That's what they did in Selma. And so, yes, yet again, the battle lines have been drawn. And this time they're not drawn through Georgia. They're not drawn through New Jersey. You all are on the front lines of this fight right now. And you're not just fighting for yourselves, you're fighting for my citizens in Morristown, New Jersey, who had ICE raids and arrested a high school student, violated our most sacred areas, schools and churches. You're fighting for people in California. People seem to have forgotten that they're battling there, people being pulled over because of the color of their skin, people being deported. You're fighting for people in red states and blue states. You all at the center right now, and no senator is coming to save you. SOS, we've got to save ourselves. And so I am a firm believer that the power of the people is greater than the people in power. I'm a firm believer that in the democracy, the governed have to give their consent I believe that we are a nation that ultimately will be determined by the grit and the guts of the people who are standing up. And in every generation, there have been demagogues. In every generation, there have been hate mongers. In every generation, there's been people in power trying to take away the rights of the people. And in every generation, we have overcome. So this is our moment. Donald Trump is not the hero of this story. Donald Trump is not the main character. We are. We are. I will give everything I can fighting in the Senate. I will go to extremes. I may not go without going to the bathroom for 25 hours again, but I will. I will fight in every way possible, not just to pass accountability measures, but to take a system that is being imposed upon us, a reckless, violent, law-breaking organization, and end them from doing this kind of injustice in our community. Stop them from doing the things that are hurting, harming, making our streets less dangerous, injuring people, and ultimately, as we've seen, taking lives. I'll do everything I can, but I'm going to tell you right now, no senator or congressperson you hear from is enough. What is enough is the people themselves saying, like Fannie Lou Hamer, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's people who are saying, I've had enough of this. Martin Luther King said it clear. What we have to repent for ultimately is not just the vitriolic words and violent actions of the bad people, but the appalling silence and inaction of the good people. You all have to be the catalytic agents that ignite the consciousness of this country, that expand the moral imagination of the nation, and ultimately help us to overcome this challenge. This is not going to be an easy fight. It is not going to be given to us. I promise you that if we stand strong and stand together, if we are perseverant, as we persevere, that we can win. I am inspired. I'm a living product, as all of you are. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams who faced dark moments in dark times, and they stuck together, stood up, and overcame. Never from Washington, always to Washington. And today is one of those nights. I just want to say to you, thank you. You're inspiring more backbone and more people than you realize, and inspiring more of us to continue the fights. My front is in New Jersey, but we're all in this together. We're all fighting in the same trench, and we cannot stop until freedom is reaffirmed and victory is won.
Right. Well, Senator Booker, thank you very much for your time tonight. And we know your time is precious. So we appreciate you coming on and showing support, like everybody has been across the country, for everybody doing the amazing work on the ground in Minneapolis. So, Senator, thank you very much for your time. And, we look forward to seeing you in the majority very, very soon so that we can hold the Trump administration accountable for everything that they've done.
From your lips to God's ears. And I actually know that. I hear the songs of my ancestors, we shall overcome. And I really do believe that. I just really believe it. So thank you all tonight. God bless you. Stay strong. Stay safe.
Great. Thank you. Take care, Senator. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you, Senator Booker, for joining us tonight. Before we get to the next panel, I just want to make sure that people are donating. Give to use the QR code in the bottom left-hand corner. 3 amazing organizations on the ground in Minneapolis doing the work to help immigrant communities and people in need. All of the dollars that you give are going to go directly to them. No one in this is getting any of this. It's going directly to the organizations. So please click on that QR code, use your phone, use the camera. It'll pop up the link. You hit it. You can go make your donation. These donations are critical to make sure people who are literally afraid to get out of their homes, get them diapers, get them food, get them supplies, get them things that they need. This is a really important thing right now, folks, and we need to stand with our brothers and sisters in Minneapolis right now. And with that, we're going to move to our third panel. This is another great one with a lot of folks that you probably know, and I got to put my glasses on so I can actually read this. But we have 4 people joining us for this next panel. The first one is Michigan State Senator Mallory Moore. Hold on a second. Let me get the names all right before I screw this up, everybody. Mallory McMorrow. Sorry, I knew that. And I actually talked to one of our people earlier tonight. Mallory McMorrow, who's also running for the Senate in Michigan, is with us in this next panel. And then we also have uh, The Soy Pill, who is a political content creator and YouTuber known for his satirical and incisive commentary on contemporary socio-political issues. The Soy Pill has more than 180,000 subscribers and has garnered 14 million views on his content. We also have Mr. Beat with us tonight, not Mr. Beast, but Mr. Beat is also a YouTuber, musician, and former social studies teacher known for his videos discussing history, geography, economics, and politics. And finally, we have Ryan Getty, who is a fast growing YouTube essayist, creating well researched deep dives into history, politics, philosophy, and culture. I will let you guys take it from here.
Right. I'll get us started. Yeah, we're going. Hello, everyone. We are here with a very special person, very special people here. Mallory McMorrow is our special guest, who's we're going to be asking questions. But and then we got the Soy Pill and Ryan Getty, as well as myself, Mr. Beat. But I believe the Soy Pill is going to ask the first question for Mallory.
Well, real quick, can you guys hear me? Because my entire screen is frozen. So if you can hear me, that's cool. But I can't see anyone.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, cool. I guess I'll just ask the first question. Happy to be here. Basically, we're seeing a lot of corruption, fraud, executive power grabs, not just in Minneapolis, but just kind of all over the country. And people, maybe you heard in the previous panels, people are angry. People want justice. And I want to know, if you're in the Senate and you're running, can you run on a platform of almost like vindication and revenge and lawfare, as some people might perceive it, without being perceived as this like revenge candidate? How are we going to hold the administration accountable for all of these mishaps and crimes without saying, oh, now every candidate is always going to be prosecuting the next administration and the next administration? But it seems like it's going to be a downward spiral into just division if we don't handle that correctly.
You got to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We have a country here, and I've been now in our state legislature for going on the last 8 years running for U.S. Senate. There are a lot of people who are just pissed off at everybody. Doesn't matter, Democrats, Republicans. They just do not believe that the system works for them at all. And what you see in Minnesota is a perfect example of that. So for me, I'm running as somebody who graduated from college right into the recession. I wanted to be a car designer, and I got my degree in 2008. So I had no job, no health insurance, no job opportunities, nowhere to live. So there has to be a vision that you lay out that people can see themselves in, so that they can imagine a future after this administration. And at the same time, I think too many of us have made the mistake of thinking that the founding documents are going to protect us without us taking action. So for me as a senator, I want to look at every norm and rule that this administration has violated and codify them into law. Norms are not laws, and there are no consequences when you violate them, and that has to stop. So we prevent something like this from ever happening again. There needs to be oversight. There needs to be accountability. We are seeing American citizens get shot in the street by federal agents. It is heartbreaking. It's wrong. And you have to do both. The way that we make people feel like they want to participate is you tell a story of a future that you are fighting for, but you have to lay out the steps to get there. And that starts with holding this administration accountable for everything that they've done to violate the Constitution and the rule of law in the first place.
If you don't mind,
oh,
sorry. No, I was just curious, Senator McMorrow, I'm curious, what are an example of one of those norms that you'd like to see codified into law?
So I was the person at the DNC in Chicago who carried out the big ass copy of Project 2025 and slammed it on a podium. Thank God I did not throw up or fall down in front of 20 million people across the country. But what I talked about in that speech was systematically going through state departments and firing lifelong civil servants and replacing them with loyalists. Now, that's not illegal, but it sets up this reality where rather than having people like Trump 1.0, where he had people in his cabinet, in his administration, who knew when he was crossing the line and would check him. Now you have an administration full of yes men. So that is just one example of making sure that if you are a civil servant, you're a civil servant. It doesn't matter what letter is behind your name. You've dedicated your career to NOAA, to understanding the weather, or to even immigration enforcement, that is your job. That's just one example, because if we don't do that, then Soy Pill, to your exact point, we get to a place where it's just retribution after retribution. You're replacing all of these departments with your people. And that is a huge disservice to Americans. We've forgotten who we serve.
And just a quick clarification, because I really like the answer of we need to establish new codified ways to say you can't violate these norms. So that prevents it happening again. But is there a way to prevent or hold the administration accountable for what they've already done that's a violation of things that are law? When we ignore judges, when we make ICE a arm of the executive where it's not even doing things that have anything to do with immigration, but rather like a previous example, terrorizing aid stations or try to get voter rolls. Is there a way to hold those people accountable without seeming vindictive, without causing that pendulum swing?
Yeah, one of the things that this administration is really good at is convincing all of us that we are powerless. It is this endless onslaught. It is a fire hose of horrible news. I mean, the way that they use social media content is just to piss you off. Watching some of the content that comes out of the official White House Instagram account churns my stomach. They're carrying out these immigration raids. I remember the video in Chicago when there were kids being dragged out in zip ties, when they are going into preschools to carry out preschool teachers. It's all to kind of just spark rage in you. But even though Republicans control the White House, the Congress, and the Senate, it is by very, very narrow majorities. And at the end of the day, the people sitting in those seats who are elected, they want to win their next election. And what we've seen already is that there are Republicans who feel very uncomfortable with ICE's activity, not only in Minnesota, but across the country. They realize that they are losing on this issue. So what we can do right now to hold them accountable is exactly what we are seeing in our communities every day. It is going out to protests. It is finding people who agree with you. It is contacting your elected officials. And what I've learned as somebody who Googled how to run for office after the 2016 election and then became an elected official after a very different career, those phone calls and those letters and those stories matter. So I know a lot of people use the 5Calls app. That's a great way to start. If you've never contacted an elected official before, it will give you a script. It will tell you who to call. But what's even more powerful than that is just call and share personally. How does this affect you? If you are a mom who is afraid to send your kid to school because your skin isn't exactly the right color, tell that story. Tell that to the person who is in charge, because we just need a few Republicans right now to vote with Democrats, to put restrictions on, to cut funding, and to actually push back on this administration, and then get involved in elections. Find a campaign and a candidate that you like, volunteer to knock doors, to make phone calls, to send text messages. The beauty of democracy, when it works well, is that it is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we better damn well never forget that, because this administration would have you believe Donald Trump is the only one who can fix it, and he's doing it for you. And we are winning right now. It may not feel like it, but we are. And you just got to keep going.
All right, thank you. Ryan, you wanted to ask your question topic?
Yeah, in the 2022 in 2022, you gave a speech that got on a lot of people's radar, brought you to a lot of people's attention. You talked about how your faith influences your politics, among other things. There's a lot of people on the right who use the language of religious faith in a way that I imagine you quite disagree with. Vice President Vance, for instance, has made news invoking his faith to defend the Trump administration's immigration policy. I wonder if you could tell us a little about how you're thinking about the role that faith plays in this political moment, how your faith plays with this political moment.
Yeah, look, it was when I ran for office for the first time, you fill out a lot of these candidate questionnaires, and it will just have a list of things that they want to know: your name, your age, your spouse, and your religion. And for a while, I left that line blank because my faith didn't fit neatly into a line. I am somebody who was raised Catholic and has very complicated feelings about the Catholic Church. That I left the church. My mom taught CCD, but we had a priest who didn't uphold the teachings of the church. Then I went to Notre Dame. I found that I really loved the aspects of Catholicism and faith that had to do with service and looking out for those who had less, and the idea that faith without works is dead. I'm also married to a Jewish man, and that does not fit neatly on a line. So I didn't talk about it for a long time. And then I watched the rise of groups like Moms for Liberty, and exactly what you're saying, people who are weaponizing my faith, Christianity, as a cudgel to hurt people, as if somehow they have the moral high ground because they have the nerve to write Christian in their Twitter bio and wear an obnoxiously sized cross around their neck while they are hurting people. My faith teaches me to look out for immigrants and to look out for those who have less. Something that has been really stunning in this moment is watching, a priest who was on one of the protest lines get hit with a pepper ball in the head. Our faith leaders are standing on the front lines right now. And I think for those who do have that in your upbringing or your background, people are really hungry for a different way to express what faith is. And faith and politics are usually at odds with each other. If you want to make friends, don't talk about faith or politics. And I guess I have chosen to do both for some reason in my life. But we need it right now. We need to see examples of faith leaders and people of faith stepping out and saying, my faith teaches me that it is my responsibility to use my blessings to be of service to others, not to demonize or marginalize or hurt them in a counter to this bastardization of faith that we see from a lot of people on the far right.
Thanks, Matt. I know you've got a great question.
I got a couple, but yeah, 2026 does seem like one of the few years in American history in which we have, like, if you're an outsider, you have a better chance of getting elected. I consider you an outsider. Like you said yourself, you're not someone who ever envisioned yourself getting into politics. You like Googled how to run for office in 2016. That's pretty cool. So that said, it seems like this is a very populist time. And I think one of the rare examples we see of unity with Republicans and Democrats is the Epstein files. I know
Yeah.
there's some that are refusing to cross the line who are in the cult of Trump, but regardless, there's clearly a lack of action right now being seen after the Epstein files release. We're seeing action in other countries, but not here. So if you were in the Senate right now, the U.S. Senate, not the Michigan Senate, what would you do about all these revelations coming out in the Epstein files?
Look, there is a lot of power in the public pulpit. And I had the opportunity a few weeks ago to meet one of the Epstein survivors. And them coming forward and telling their stories is so powerful and raw and moving. And if it were up to me, Democrats are in the minority right now, so may not be able to call a committee meeting in Washington. But today, I mean, we're on Discord and podcasts and YouTube right now. Take your message out to people relentlessly. Be sharing the stories of what we're seeing in these files, because I can tell you it feels like a lot of people in this administration and in power are hoping that they've dumped this trove of documents on us and that it is going to be, again, so overwhelming that people can't parse through it and they move on to the next thing. They're going to say, this is a distraction. We are not talking about affordability. We are not talking about jobs. This is not what people want to hear. We just need to brush it aside. And what's true about the Epstein files is that either one of two things are true. Either this administration knew what was involved and intentionally hid it from us, or They flat out lied when they trotted out all the binders onto the front lawn of the White House and said, we have the Epstein files and we're going to release them. Either way, it's your government lying to you. And it shows that there are two systems of justice, one for the rich and powerful, and there are a lot of rich and powerful people who are named in these emails, and one for everybody else. And we are never going to restore faith in our institutions without pursuing justice. And I don't care if you're a Republican, I don't care if you're a Democrat. If you are in those documents, you need to be held accountable. There were thousands of girls, children. And if you hear me getting a little emotional, my daughter just turned 5, and I'm reading some of these emails that mention 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old girls, and I'm sick to my stomach. So if you're not in power, you use social media, you hold your own press conferences, you invite survivors to tell their own stories about what it means, and you keep talking about it over and over and over, because you're right, there are Republicans who have come to the table who said this is wrong. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people, saying nothing about this is making America great again. It's not America first, it is covering up for the rich and powerful at the expense of vulnerable girls, and we won't stand for it.
Is a bit symbolic too. I think it's this one underlying theme of all of our questions for you tonight. I think has been there just hasn't been transparency. There's no trust. Ordinary folks do not trust the federal government in particular, and so I kind of have a little follow up there. One of my big reforms this year is I've been contacting my congressman every single day. So this is day 35. And I've been trying to get him to give me one reason why he currently doesn't support uncapping the House, which means expanding the House of Representatives. There's currently 435, and that number has been static since 1929, despite the population more than tripling since then. And so the reason why I asked this, it's related, I promise you. One reason I firmly believe there is this lack of trust between citizens and the federal government is because, well, frankly, the federal government has no, members of Congress have no incentive to listen to their constituents. They have incentives to listen to their donors. And I'm sure you're speaking with donors on your, quite a bit right now. You kind of have to. It's the freaking game. Expanding the House, though, is this something you've even thought about? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I now serve in the Michigan State Senate, where I represent about 260,000 people. It's a big district,
that many?
and
That
that
many?
many people, that many people. And as many events as we do, it's hard to see everybody. And I think it is really important to be able to meet the people you represent face to face. And I would be open to it, because the House is supposed to be the people's house. You've got two chambers. You have the House and you have the Senate. And it's not just that. There are comprehensive reforms that need to take place. You're exactly right. I have to talk to a lot of donors right now because in a state like Michigan with an open Senate seat, I'm going to have to raise at least $60 million to be competitive. It is a disgusting amount of money that keeps a lot of really good people who would make incredible elected officials away from even thinking about running for office. And I've made the decision not to take any corporate PAC dollars on the campaign. That makes it a lot harder. That means you're probably going to see a lot of Instagram ads with me. Currently, one that people see is I'm running out of the woods saying, stop scrolling. Please pay attention for 2 seconds. But we have to overturn Citizens United. We have to get dark money out of politics. We have to ban congressional stock trading so that when you go to Washington, you don't have access to information and become a multimillionaire before anybody else does. We need to ensure that there are primaries. I'm in a Democratic primary right now, and I know that that makes some people uncomfortable. Why doesn't the party just decide? Well, when the party decides and puts their finger on the scales, people don't trust the outcome if we've learned nothing. So I think yours is a great idea. I think we have to explore a lot of ideas to, frankly, as we think about the next generation of elected officials in Washington, people who are not so wed to the institution the way that it always was, and instead recognizing that this administration is tearing the institutions down to the studs. that gives us an opportunity to build new institutions that actually live up to the promise of our country and of representation, and help to restore people's faith in their elected leaders, and that this system actually serves them.
Awesome. I have to start officially endorsing candidates if they support uncapping the House, by the way. So, Bill, you got anything else?
Well, I was just going to say,
Brian?
if we if we can track the stocks in real time, then we can all become millionaires, and then we can all run for Senate. That would actually two birds, one stone sort of situation. I think that was all the questions on the docket. Are we good on time, Jay?
Reminder: this is
Yeah,
a
the docket.
fundraiser.
You,
For the
you
folks
was
in
can,
gonna
the
say,
if
yeah.
you guys want to go for a few more minutes, I think you can.
Well, yeah.
You've got 5 minutes.
Oh,
Okay,
perfect.
real quick
Are,
before
are
we forget,
there
because
Rapid
we'll
fire.
push it. Well, I just want to say, yeah, it is a fundraiser. So to everyone listening, please go look at the institutions that are supported, help out the people in Minnesota.
and
A
just
lot of stuff
can
happening
we
on the
just
ground right now.
can we take a moment just to acknowledge? I mean, you asked about what can people do right now. The people of Minnesota are standing in the breach in the frigid cold weather. I'm in Michigan right now. It has not been above 30 degrees for the last 3 weeks. It is that much colder in Minnesota. Um, it would be a lot easier to stay home. And we see moms and aunts and uncles. I have seen videos of Minnesotans who have never protested before, who are coming out because they are so pissed off about what's happening. That is really powerful. And you've seen this administration start to pull back because they see that when people stand up and use their voices, it matters, and their actions have gone too far. So yes, please donate and support the people on the ground who are doing that work, who need that support, because they are the best of us. That is America, and that is democracy, is not being afraid to stand in the face when your own government has gone too far.
Absolutely.
Well, Soy, I know you were about to get into a question there.
I was. Maybe
Oh,
you
I
can read
thought
my
you were.
mind.
I'm curious. I'm curious if you have trust in government is something that I talk about a lot on my channel. I think it's one of the biggest problems that we have as a society is we have a situation where a lot of people do not have trust in the government. I wonder, Matt obviously talked about expanding the House of Representatives. Are there other things that you think that you would be able to do in the Senate that would help to restore people's trust in government? Beyond
filibuster. End the filibuster.
And the
beyond
filibuster.
politics.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, but beyond that,
Silent filibuster.
so look, we now live in a time where, it's not Walter Cronkite anymore. It's not like everybody is watching the same news and they get the same facts and the same information. They go to bed. We now live in an area where everybody has different news sources, different media outlets. And I think that that is both a terrible thing and a good thing. I mean, the fact that we can all come together and just broadcast this out to whoever is watching, I think is a wonderful thing. What I would want to do in the Senate is bring some of that communication into my work. So when I ran for office for the very first time, I ran against my Republican state senator. He had won by 16 points the cycle before. I beat him by 4. So we swung a district 20 points in a single cycle, which meant I represented a lot of people who did not vote for me and probably did not like me very much. And we made it a point in all of our mailers, in my email, on my social media. I did a weekly live stream to explain, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm voting on, here is the input and feedback that I've gotten, here's why I voted and why. And the best feedback that I would get from constituents, especially people who didn't vote for me, was people who would say, I don't agree with you on much, but I trust you because you explain what you're doing and why and your rationale, and it makes sense. And I just feel like a lot of that is missing on the federal level right now. I had a very unique career before running for office. I started as a car designer, then I was a senior designer at Hot Wheels. So there's a Hot Wheels car that has my name on it. Then I was the advertising creative director for Gawker Media. So I learned, how to write on the internet and write about anything, no matter how complicated, just like you would talk to your friend at a bar. Then I was a creative director for a production company that did documentary films and live events and Super Bowl commercials. Storytelling and communication matters, and you got to trust the people you represent to want to know what's going on. Don't talk down to them. Talk about what's happening every single day. On my Instagram, after the 2024 election, I started doing a series of Ask Me Anything where you could type in a question, you could ask me whatever you wanted. And people asked, what's the difference between a bill and a resolution? What is going on? This is a very Michigan thing with the 8 bills that the Speaker of the House hasn't sent to the governor's desk. People ask, how do you balance being a mom and an elected official? And I would just take time. I've answered more than 300 of these questions so that people get to know me. And I wish more of our federal officials did that so that you're not letting Fox News or MSNBC or MS Now or whatever it is now kind of dictate where it is. Talk directly with people. We have all the tools in the world to do that. And I think taking advantage of all of those tools that we have would help people feel like you can build up a relationship with your elected official. And even if you don't agree with them all the time, because you're never going to agree with somebody 100% of the time, that you trust they are trying to make the best decision for the most.
Oh,
did we lose her?
Did we lose? Did we lose?
Froze.
Oh, we came back.
Oh,
It
you're
froze
back.
there.
You're back.
We're back.
That's all right. First
Yeah, I think,
priority after eliminating the filibuster.
Expanding a program called RX Kids nationwide. I'm really proud of this one. I don't do any of you guys have kids? Sorry, I didn't even ask.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Yes. Okay, so RX Kids is a program that we piloted here in Michigan. It was created by Dr. Mona Hanna. She was the whistleblower of the Flint water crisis. It is a cash grant program for new moms and babies, $1,500 while the woman is pregnant, $500 a month for the first 6 months to up to a year of the baby's life. In Flint, in the pilot, we saw a steep reduction in evictions, reduction of postpartum depression, significantly better mental health outcomes, almost an elimination of babies being born and ending up in the NICU, healthier birth weights, healthier development. And it's just an amazing program that we've now rolled out statewide. And I think with everything being so expensive right now and nobody is prepared for how expensive it is when you start your family, that's something that I want to take nationally.
Heck yeah. It's like
Wait,
UBI.
can I ask
but
one
for
last?
new
Don't
moms.
forget to donate, folks. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, don't forget to donate. One last question. This is super serious. If elected senator, will you build a Hot Wheels loop-de-loop racetrack on Mitch McConnell's desk so he's distracted and stops blocking bills?
Yes. Also, I have the background to do this. I helped when I was at Mattel. We built a 6-story tall Hot Wheels loop that we actually had live at the X Games in downtown Los Angeles. We sent 2 race car drivers through them and nobody died. So I can do this and we need to bring it to DC.
That would put Mitch catatonic. That's awesome.
Well, I don't even know how to follow up on that, but thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. And Mallory, I think if you become the next senator, you're probably the only one that has a Hot Wheels car named after you. So you know that's
so.
that's a badge of honor for sure. So thank you, everybody. Thank you again to all of you listening as well. Please make sure you hit that donate button. Use your phone for the QR code. Make sure that you give money. These groups on the ground that are doing this work, it's absolutely essential work that needs to be done. All of the dollars go to them. Nobody here is getting anything. It's directly to them. They're helping people who are afraid to go out of their homes, make sure that they have formula, diapers, food, all of these things. It's really, really important. So, and I just thank everybody here for joining and giving us a little of their time tonight. So, and I think with that, we're going to go to our next panel. We might need a minute, which I guess I'm going to, I think filibuster is probably a good term since we have a Senate candidate here to talk about, see if I can actually do it myself. But, you know, I think actually while we're waiting, I guess, while we're doing this, maybe we should just ask, where can people, so Mallory, for you, example, like where can people find you? Obviously all over the internet, but if
all
people
over
need
the internet, I am at Mallory McMorrow on all of the social media platforms, or you can learn more, volunteer, or join our campaign after and only after you donate to the groups doing the work on the ground that this fundraiser is for at McMorrowforMichigan.com.
Love it.
But if you
All
have
right,
a
we're gonna
spare
go around the
$60
room.
million,
Oh, sorry, what was that? Sorry.
I said, well, if you have a spare $60 million lying around the house, she's in need. So
Tell your friends.
Change.
I like it. I like it. Well, I don't really, but you know, yes. Hopefully, someday we won't have to raise all that money, and we can actually have fair finance, election finance for laws. But so where can people find you?
I'm the Soy Pill on YouTube and other platforms, but mostly YouTube.
Okay, Mr. Beat.
Just search Mr. Beat. Mr. Beast will show up, but just keep scrolling down and then you'll find me.
I was going to say, how often do you hear that?
Way too much, but that's
Yeah.
okay because it helps me. But hashtag Project No Cap for Uncap the House.
I love it. I love it. And I'm with you on that too. I think not to get into it too much, but I think, what is it? Like people are representing twice as many or 3 times as many as it used to be like decades ago or something like that?
Yeah, in the beginning, in 1789, it was 1 rep for every 30,000 constituents, and now it's 1 rep for every 760,000 constituents. So,
oh my God.
Yeah.
That is insane. Yeah, I'm with you. Ryan, where can people find you?
I'm Ryan Getty. I'm on YouTube. That's basically it. If you RyanGeddie. Definitely, while I have the floor, please take a look at that link to go donate. Don't send me any money. Go donate to charities. You can scan that QR code, makes it really easy. Or if you're in my chat, I have it pinned to the top of the chat. There's a link up there to the link tree. So definitely check that out. The people in Minnesota and Minneapolis are an example to everyone right now. And the next time you see a protest in your area and you think it's too hot, it's too cold, not as cold as it is in Minneapolis. So thank you so much.
Okay. Well, with that, I think the next panel is ready. So thank you again, all of you. We really appreciate you taking the time. We know you're all super busy. So thank you very much for all of this. And hopefully we'll get to connect again sometime soon. So with that, we're going to go to our final panel. And it's certainly it's last but not least. Let's see if I can get this right. We have with us, first I'm going to do actually my friend, Elizabeth Booker Houston, is a lawyer, public health professional, stand-up comedian, and political commentator who has over 1 million followers across social media platforms. She performs stand-up comedy in Washington, D.C., where she integrates legal insight into political satire. That is not something that is very easy to do. And that because I know her, I know she does it very, very well. And we also are very, very fortunate to have with us, I believe, coming here in a minute, will be Congressman Ted Lieu, which if you are on any social media platform, you know the congressman. He was one of the first people that dove right into Twitter. I think he's got 1.4 million followers, which makes me very jealous. And has been a fighter for working people, middle-class families for a long time, holding Donald Trump accountable. Congressman, it's great to have you. Elizabeth, always a pleasure. I'm going to let you guys take it from here. As long as we could turn your videos on. Congressman's good. You're good too. All right. You guys take it from here.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. Very glad to be here. Very glad to support Minnesota. Very glad to be here with Congressman Ted Lieu. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Honored to be here with you, Liz.
Thank you. I appreciate so much to have this conversation with you. Also, just want to shout out all the folks in Minnesota right now. A lot of folks know I was just there last week in Minneapolis doing a live town hall with Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, Angela Rye, Bakari Sellers, Andrew Gillum brought us all out. I was also there with Georgia Fort, who I will bring up in a little bit of our conversation later as we're talking about the way that folks have been attacked for speaking out. But before we get into that, I just want to go ahead and level set for a moment and start off, Congressman, asking you, what is your general feeling and just your thoughts right now when it comes to ICE and what's going on here in the U.S.?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Liz, for doing this, for everyone for participating. Last month, I went to Minneapolis, St. Paul, met with nonprofit groups, with folks who were impacted by the raids, with local and state law enforcement. And then we did a Democratic field hearing. And I remember thinking I was simultaneously horrified and inspired. We heard horrific stories of abuse and lawlessness, and then amazingly inspirational stories of Minnesotans helping each other, of Minnesotans pushing back, of Minnesotans standing up for the law. We had a police chief testify at the hearing, which, when you think about it, is awfully strange because you have local law enforcement essentially criticizing another. I don't want to call them law enforcement, but then, because to me they're not real law enforcement, but criticizing ICE and Border Patrol. And so we're simultaneously seeing the worst of America and the best of America. And we're going to make sure that the best of America prevails and the tide has turned.
And, I've been following what's going on your social media, the announcements that you have been making. And I want to point out some of the things that you are pushing for that I think are part of that best of America that you're trying to strive more for. The first one I want to talk about is that you have very explicitly stated Kristi Noem has got to go. She either needs to be fired or she needs to step down. And if not, you and other members of Congress are ready to bring articles of impeachment against her. Can you tell us more about that?
1,000%. Under her watch at the Department of Homeland Security, a number of Americans have been killed. And then you had a number of deaths at detention centers. She has turned ICE and Border Patrol into lawless entities. She has to either resign or be fired. And if not, then I support impeachment proceedings to commence.
And in addition to that, you have also said that ICE and CBP and all of these other entities within DHS that are essentially engaging in this kidnapping and killing of American citizens needs to stand down all interior operations. What did you mean by that when you said they needed to stand down all of their interior operations?
I served on active duty in the United States Air Force for 4 years and then additional 21 years in the reserves. When the military has preventable deaths happen, uh, what the agency or department will do is basically order an operational stand down, where you basically review and change policies and procedures, go over training, go over safety protocols, go over whether the mission needs to be reassessed or changed. And I believe that needs to happen for ICE and Border Patrol interior operations. They need to have an operational stand down. And number one, teach every agent what the Constitution actually says. You actually do need a judicial warrant before you barge into someone's home. Teach these agents that you can't deport American citizens. You can't even detain American citizens. Their only charge is to enforce immigration laws, not against American citizens. And then third, make sure that they know how to use force without killing people, without abuse, without excess force.
And so I know that you're talking about some different reform options that can happen in the meantime, but a lot of people are calling, and I will say myself included, to just straight up get rid of ICE. I know that Jolly Good Ginger was on live earlier this evening. He's a friend of mine, and he pointed out how the Department of Homeland Security has only existed since 2003. We know that ICE has only existed since the 2000s. These are very young agencies that obviously are extremely broken to the point that a lot of us think that they are beyond reform. Can you tell me what your thoughts are about if there's a possibility for Congress to just completely do away with this agency altogether? And especially, I will just say I'm a former federal employee. I left in August. After watching the administration dismantle everything from USAID to coming after Department of Education, we see that very clearly an agency can be completely gotten away, completely dismantled. And I just want to know what your thoughts are when people talk about dismantling ICE or even DHS as a whole.
So I believe my vote speaks for itself. I voted no the first time on funding for DHS. I voted no the second time on funding for DHS. I believe Trump's ICE needs to be dismantled. I think Trump's ICE has strayed far away from its mission, and that the people in charge have led their agents astray to engage in lawless behavior. And I just want to also commend Minnesotans, the American people, for standing up to what they see as lawless behavior. And it is the American people that are pushing back, that's causing the Trump administration to now essentially start retreating. So the Trump administration took Border Patrol Commander at Large Greg Bovino and shipped him out of Minnesota. They recently announced they would put body cameras on every agent in Minneapolis, St. Paul area. That's a start. I think every one of their agents should have body cameras, but at least this is a start, and they are backtracking on that. And so they have basically backtracked and said, we will put body cameras now on these folks in Minnesota. And then third, they announced a drawdown of about 700 agents out of Minnesota. They still have far too many, but at least it's going in the right direction. So the pushback from American people is super incredibly helpful, and the pushback from Minnesotans.
I agree. I think the pushback has helped. It has helped get who I call the Nazi leprechaun out of there, Greg Bovino. He can go find his magically delicious Lucky Charms elsewhere, I suppose. And I also want to talk about the wins that we have had since you're talking about some of the positive impacts. We have seen a federal court recently granted emergency relief to the members of Congress who were suing Department of Homeland Security for basically trying to restrict your unannounced facility visits that are part of your oversight duties and your duties as a member of Congress. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring up an incident with one of your colleagues that has really spurred these policies and lawsuits, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver, who we know is currently facing 17 years in federal prison for being arrested and charged by Trump's DOJ, Pam Bondi, for doing her job as a member of Congress to inspect a facility in New Jersey. And we know that when it came to Liam Ramos, who was held in Dilley Detention Facility in Texas, Congressman Castro and Congresswoman Crockett had to wait 7 days before they were able to actually go into the facility. And thank goodness Liam and his father Adrian are home now. But there's so many other children and innocent people who are locked up in what is essentially a substandard prison that is a health and safety risk. And so I just wanted to get your reaction to the federal court's decision and ask you, with this decision coming through, saying that you've been restored your oversight abilities without having to have that waiting period, do you foresee a lot of yourself and a lot of your colleagues paying a lot more visits to ICE facilities now that this decision has been put in place?
I do. I commend the federal court for that decision. Currently applies to 13 members of Congress who filed a lawsuit. However, I do believe this court will expand it to all members of Congress. I also want to note that many members of Congress have been doing their jobs, and LaMonica McIver was doing her job and doing oversight. I believe a jury will find her not guilty. And I also want to thank Congressmember Castro for his amazing work and oversight that helped get Liam, the 5-year-old, released from detention. And you just got to really ask yourself, what possible crimes did a 5-year-old commit?
A 5-year-old, a precious 5-year-old in a little blue hat. Before we got on live, I was telling you about my 6-year-old. I know that you have grown children now, but I'm sure you remember when they were little. And I just can't imagine my child being locked up. I mean, and I want to just really hone in on this point because it is very key to remind people that Adrian and Liam are documented. The problem with the rhetoric of calling people illegal is, first of all, that is not a legal terminology to use for immigration law, right? But the reason why we push so hard to talk about undocumented versus documented is because when you start using that broad term of illegal, you dehumanize people and you don't actually look at the situation. And the fact is that Liam and his father have a legal right to be here, are documented, lawful asylum seekers, completely opposite from what Donald Trump said he was going to do. But as we're talking about broken promises from Donald Trump, can we have a moment to just giggle a little bit? I don't know if you saw this, Congressman, but the ICE agents who were hired on with the promise of a $50,000 pay bonus are finding out that the Trump administration is not actually paying their bonuses. As a matter of fact, many ICE agents who have been hired on in this surge are complaining about the fact that they're not even getting paid their regular paychecks right now. Are you surprised that the con man president has stiffed these ICE agents?
Donald Trump, throughout his lifetime, has stiffed his own employees, contractors, all sorts of people. It should be no surprise that he is now stiffing ICE agents. And I also do want to note that you make an incredibly, really important point. Liam and his father came in here legally. They came in through a process that was legal. They are in the process of getting a hearing, but there is really nothing they did that was against the law. And that's one reason the judge released Liam and his father. So you got the Trump administration just not going after who they said they were going after, which is people with criminal convictions. They're just going after random folks who are still in the process of getting a hearing and so on, but they're here legally with status. And I also want to note that the whole purpose of this event is also, in addition to providing information to folks, is to raise funds for people who have been impacted by the abuses of ICE and Border Patrol. And I urge folks to make any donation they can, and they can look at their screen for ways to do that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that. And thank you for bringing that up, Congressman, because we really want to make sure people have resources. And I know that people are saying, well, I can't protest. I can't get to Minnesota. I can't get to Minneapolis. I don't, if you are able to give financially is a great way to give back. So I just want to remind folks of who we're giving to today with this live stream, starting with Mi Casita Pantry, which is helping with food security for families who are facing food insecurity. And this is really important right now, especially for immigrants and migrants who are too afraid to even go to the grocery store. These food pantries are providing an essential service to keep people fed, especially in this time where it's so cold outside and people need everything they can to survive. We also want to talk about Unidos Minnesota, which is an organizing group. They are the ones who are helping, making sure that there are boots on the ground, helping to make sure that communities have a system in place to support one another, and they're also making sure to keep folks informed. And that is a grassroots organization, by the way. And then I also want to point out that we are also donating to the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota. This is a legal aid center. They are very overwhelmed, from what I understand, with people seeking assistance. And so money will help. But I, as a lawyer, also want to point out that if you as a lawyer or a law student can give your time to a legal aid center, such as the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota, I highly recommend that you do. Reach out to them and see if there's a way that you can help. Just any way that folks can give back, but donate. Make sure to support these organizations. I think we're coming to the end of our time, if I'm not mistaken. But I just wanted to thank you, Congressman, and give you the final word if there's anything you just want to say.
Sure. I just want to thank Minnesotans and the American people and remind folks that they have the absolute First Amendment right to peacefully witness and document ICE operations, to film ICE operations, and to live stream ICE operations. And it's because of the courage and bravery of the American people that we saw what happened to Renee Good, that we saw what happened to Alex Preddy, and it showed that the Trump administration lied. And it is what has turned the tide. And let me just close on this. Trump and J.D. Vance have already lost. They try to remake and change the character of America. They thought that Americans would embrace their plan of sending masked federal agents to terrorize communities across our country. And the American people said, hell no, we're not going to stand for that. And the polling shows that ICE is underwater by 20 points, 27 points. It shows Donald Trump is underwater by 20, 30 points. So American people have rejected what Trump and Vance are trying to do. They have already lost, and now we just have to actualize these wins at the ballot box and through pushing back on these abuses.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you both. Thank you, Congressman, and thank you, Elizabeth. I think it's the first time we've actually talked face to face. Done, a lot of texting and stuff. But
I know.
Hopefully we'll see each other in person real soon. But thank you for taking time to do this. It's really important. And I had two lawyers on here. I don't have anything else really to add. And you named the groups again, so my wrap up is actually really short because we have reached the end of this program, everybody. So I'm going to give you one last opportunity to donate. The bottom left of your screen, hit that QR code, give as much money as you can. That money is going directly to organizations on the ground making a difference. So with that, I think this is maybe the first live stream in history that has ended on time. Usually they go 2 or 3 times over. So I think we did a really great job tonight. I hope everybody listening enjoyed this, got something out of it, something you could tell your friends about what's going on, things they can do to help. Because as all the speakers tonight have said, like, we are the ones that we are waiting for, and we are the ones that need to do the work. And, if we stick together, I think good things will come ahead. So thank you guys for sticking with us this last 2 hours, and hopefully we'll do another one of these again soon.
Thanks
Thanks, everybody.
all.
Thank you.
Take care.